Good morning, my name is Marie Charpentier and I'm a French CNRS Director of Research working at the Institute for Evolutionary Sciences located in Montpellier in southern France. Today I will talk about the empirical results that we obtained on the avoidance behavior in the face of parasites in wild mandrills, especially those parasites that are socially transmitted. So parasites, as you all know, are ubiquitous and live at the expenses of virtually all life on Earth. Parasites and their hosts are involved into an evolutionary arms race where each set of species struggle to develop adaptations and counter-adaptations against each other in an ever-changing environment. This has led Lee Van Valin to propose the Red Queen hypothesis as a metaphor of Lewis Carroll's book Through the Looking Glass. But because parasites generally show short generation times, they are expected to evolve faster than their hosts that can make only the best out of the worst by optimally resisting to their parasites. However, host resistance strategies depend on various traits such as parasite virulence and mode of transmission or the host biology. So these different traits have generated selective pressures on hosts who have evolved very sophisticated strategies throughout evolutionary times to fight off parasites, the physiological immune system being the most prominent. In addition to these physiological mechanisms, a complex behavioral immune system may also have evolved in hosts as pre-contact defense strategies against parasites. Here are two typical examples, the use of latrines or mud baths in several species. In some species, individuals may also evaluate the parasite status of their conspecifics to avoid mating with them. This has been essentially demonstrated in studies on sexual selection. However, how these observations are transposable to more general parameters of sociality and whether and how parasites influence the evolution of animal social systems are not well explored yet. So a few years ago, and within the framework of the Mandrillus project, I undertook a long-term ecological, empirical study on the behavioral avoidance repertoire in wild mandrills that have evolved to fight off parasites. So this work began during Clement's PhD, as you can see here, and is still going on in collaboration with her. So in early 2012, I have established a long-term field project in southern Gabon, in the Lekedi Park, as you can see on the map at the right here, to study the only natural population of habituated mandrills worldwide. This all-world matrilineal primate species typically forms huge multi-male, multi-female social groups and lives in deep equatorial forests. The study population is currently composed of about 300 individually known mandrills who are monitored every day from sunrise to sunset by a team of field assistants, students, and researchers. We are collecting diverse information on these mandrills, including their life histories, their ranging, and their social behavior, as well as non-invasive fecal samples. So the study mandrills are infected by a large range of gastrointestinal parasites, including 7 taxa of protozoa. By contrast with nematode, protozoa are orofecally transmitted and are contagious following expulsion. In addition, infected mandrills do present contagious protozoan cysts on their fur. Consequently, protozoa may be transmitted through body contact, such as during conspicuous grooming interactions. We thus predicted that mandrills should particularly avoid grooming infected group mates to limit parasite transmission. And that's exactly what we found. Infected mandrills are less groomed than others. So let me show you now using the results using a first correlative approach. So as you can see on this first graph, based on monthly metrics, there is a negative relationship between grooming received by an individual on the y-axis and its protozoa richness on the x-axis. So in other words, when you are infected by numerous protozoan species, group mates significantly groom you less. We confirm this correlation using an experimental approach by treating 16 individuals against protozoa. So on this figure, you can see on the left of the graph the frequency of grooming received before medical treatment and for each of the 16 mandrills, and after treatment on the right of the figure. So as you can see, most deparasitized individuals in blue received more grooming following treatment. As you can see on this graph, however, the variance across individuals is quite large, meaning that mandrills do not behave the same in the face of parasites. We thus explore some of the determinants of this variation. We first found that kinship strongly mitigates the avoidance of infected social partners. We basically split our dataset into different kin classes. As before, we confirmed that individuals groom less highly infected groupmates when these groupmates were unrelated or lowly related to them. So this is the first two graphs that depict grooming received by lowly infected individuals on the left versus highly infected individuals on the right. By contrast, we did not find such an effect for close maternal kin as shown on these three graphs. Maternal half-sibs, mothers or offspring do not change their grooming behavior as a function of the groomee's infection status. Such flexibility in social avoidance that we have demonstrated is expected to evolve if the social benefits of interacting with some individual, here close kin, outweigh parasite costs. So we then explored further such flexibility in grooming behavior according to the infectious status of social partners, again by splitting our dataset between the risky body parts and the non-risky body parts. So let me explain now the risky thing. As said before, we know from experimentation that infected mandrills show protozoan cysts on their fur. Among those infected mandrills, we also know that most parasites concentrate around the perianal area, the bottom, in dark blue on this graph compared to any other body part in light blue. The bottom area should therefore be particularly risky for groomers regarding parasite transmission, and indeed, those highly infected mandrills, when they are groomed, are on average 3 times less groomed around the bottom than on any other body parts. So the flexibility in social avoidance also depends on the risk of being contaminating. All these results very recently led us to explore more widely inter-individual variation in social avoidance of parasites. So this is a line of research that Clemence is currently largely developing during her postdoc on lemurs. And as for lemurs, we generated an individual hygienic score in female mandrills only, based on the proportion of grooming given that included the bottom risky area. So before studying the determinant of hygienism, we checked whether there was inter-individual variation, but also intra-individual repeatability throughout the years, and of course that more hygienic individuals were also less infected on average. So that's what we found. Indeed, 18% of grooming events including the bottom, but this ranged from 0 to 60% across female years. Repeatability was high and significant, meaning that some females were always hygienic while others were not. And finally, we found modest but significant support for a correlation between hygienism and parasitism. So we then wondered which traits characterize these hygienic or non-hygienic personalities. So we did not find any effect of social rank or female's age. However, hygienism in mandrills appeared socially, although not genetically inherited. So this is the last result I will present today. All are very fresh. We found that the more a mother was hygienic, the more her daughters were too, as you can see on these two graphs, which represent significant positive relationships between hygienic scores of the mother and her daughters on the top, and among daughters or maternal half-sisters on the bottom. So to tease apart genetic from social or cultural effects as mandrills live in matrilineal social groups, we look at the same relationships among paternal half-sisters who are as much genetically related as maternal half-sisters are, but they live in different matrilines. So I think it's pretty clear from that graph that there is no such relationship between hygienic scores among these paternal kin. suggesting that the effects we found among those females sharing the same matriline are probably due to learning, social processes, rather than being genetically inherited. So to come back to an early slide, hosts do not only do the best out of the worst with their parasites, they also behaviorally adapt to them to limit transmission or alleviate the cost of infection. So with this talk, I hope to have demonstrated that in primate systems, parasites and their hosts are constantly evolving strategies, including behavioral strategies, to escape or to adapt to each other, but that inter-individual variation occurs and needs to be studied to fully understand infection dynamics and evolutionary trade-offs in hosts. Thank you to all of you for listening, and I would like to thank past and present field assistants and students of the Mandrillus project who are collecting daily data. Thanks, bye.